Selling. Most people hate it. They think it is manipulative, pushy, dishonest. And that is exactly why most people stay broke. Because money moves through sales. Every business, every empire, every fortune. Rockefeller understood something most people never will. Selling is not about selling. It is about power. The power to influence decisions. The power to shape perception. The power to control value. He did not sell oil. He sold certainty, trust, reliability. And in this video, you will learn who to sell to, how to sell, and how to close deals worth $100,000 or even $1 million. Part 1. Who should you sell to? This is where most people make their biggest mistake. They try to sell to everyone. Everyone. Beginners do this constantly. They think more people equals more money. So they cast the widest net possible. They try to attract everyone, sell to everyone, appeal to everyone. This feels logical, but it is disastrous. Because when you sell to everyone, you sell to no one. Rockefeller never sold this way. He understood something powerful. The biggest money is always found in specific markets, specific people, specific pain points, specific desires. This is because money follows urgency, and urgency exists where pain exists. This means the first rule of selling is simple. Sell to people who already want something badly. This matters more than almost anything else. Let's imagine two markets. Market 1, people mildly interested in improving something. Market 2, people desperately trying to solve an expensive problem. Which market is easier to sell to? The second, always, because pain creates urgency. Urgency creates action. Action creates sales. This is why wealthy businesses obsess over customer psychology. They want to understand one thing. What problem hurts the most? Because where pain is strongest, money flows easiest. This is why industries like finance, health, beauty, relationships, status, wealth produce enormous money. Because human desire is powerful there. Fear is powerful there. Emotion is powerful there. And emotion drives buying decisions. People love pretending they buy logically. They do not. They justify logically. But buy emotionally. This is one of the most important truths in sales. People buy emotionally first, then justify rationally later. Rockefeller understood this. He knew businesses needed oil, but even more importantly, they needed certainty. They feared instability. They feared inconsistency. They feared risk. Rockefeller sold them relief from that fear. This is why he dominated. He understood customer psychology better than competitors. And this brings us to the first secret of selling. Do not sell based on what you want. Sell based on what they want. Simple, but powerful. This means you need to identify the right people. Who are they? What do they fear? What do they desire? What keeps them awake at night? What problem feels expensive? Because expensive problems create expensive solutions, and expensive solutions create large sales. This is where amateurs fail. They sell to low-urgency buyers, people who do not care enough, people who do not feel enough pain, people who are not ready. Then they blame sales. They say, selling is hard. No, selling the wrong offer to the wrong people is hard. Selling the right offer to the right people feels natural. This is the difference. And once you understand who to sell to, the next question becomes obvious. How do you actually sell? Not aggressively, not manipulatively, but effectively. That is where things become interesting. Because this is where average salespeople and elite salespeople separate. Part 2. How to sell.
Now that you understand who to sell to, the next question becomes obvious. How do you actually sell? And this is where most people fail, because they approach sales with the wrong mindset. They think selling is about convincing, persuading, talking more, pushing harder, applying pressure. This is why average salespeople sound desperate. You can hear it in their voice, feel it in their energy. They want the sale too badly, and desperation destroys trust. This is one of the most important rules in sales. The person who appears less needy has more power, always. Power influences perception, and perception shapes decisions. Rockefeller understood this. He never behaved like a man begging for business. He positioned himself differently. He projected certainty, confidence, control. And people trusted certainty. This is critical because people do not buy when they feel pressured. They buy when they feel safe. Safe in the decision, safe in the outcome, safe in the value. That means the first rule of selling is this: never sell with desperation. Sell with certainty. Certainty is magnetic. Think about the most persuasive people you know. They rarely appear desperate. They speak calmly, clearly, confidently. They understand something powerful. People trust confidence, not arrogance. Confidence. There is a difference. Confidence says, I understand the value of what I offer. Arrogance says, I am better than you. The first builds trust. The second destroys it. This is why great selling starts with belief. Before someone believes in your product, they must believe in you. And before they believe in you, you must believe in yourself. This is where weak salespeople collapse. They do not truly believe. They hesitate. They sound uncertain. They communicate doubt. And doubt kills sales. Because uncertainty transfers. Confidence transfers too. That is the hidden psychology. Emotion transfers. Belief transfers. Energy transfers. This is why selling is not just words. It is emotional communication. And people feel far more than they hear. Now here is the second rule. Stop selling features. Start selling outcomes. This is massive. Most people sell the product. Elite salespeople sell the transformation. That is a huge difference. Nobody buys a gym membership because they want access to equipment. They buy because they want confidence, attractiveness, status, health. Nobody buys a luxury watch because they need to know the time. They buy because they want status, identity, power. Nobody buys expensive consulting because they want information. They buy because they want outcomes, faster success, more money, better positioning. This changes how you sell. You stop describing the thing, you start describing the result. Rockefeller did not merely sell refined oil. He sold reliability. He sold efficiency. He sold stability. That is why businesses chose him. They were not buying oil. They were buying certainty. That is the secret. People buy outcomes, not products. And once you understand this, you start communicating differently. You stop saying, here is what this is, and start saying, here is what this does for you. That shift increases sales dramatically because people care about themselves, their problems, their pain, their desires, not your product. This sounds harsh, but it is true. Customers care about one thing. What changes for me? Answer that clearly, and selling becomes much easier. Now comes the third rule. Ask questions. This is where beginners get everything wrong. They talk too much. They explain too much. They pitch too fast. Wrong. The best salespeople talk less. They listen more. Because the best salespeople understand something critical. The more you understand the customer, the easier selling becomes. Questions create understanding. Questions reveal pain. Questions uncover desire. Questions expose objections. This is priceless. Because once you understand what someone truly wants, you can position your offer correctly. Think of sales like diagnosis. A doctor does not prescribe before understanding symptoms. That would be foolish. Yet that is exactly how most people sell. They pitch before understanding. They sell before listening. This creates friction. Elite salespeople do the opposite. They investigate first. They ask, what problem are you trying to solve? What is frustrating you? Why does this matter now? What happens if nothing changes? These questions are powerful because they increase emotional awareness. Often, the customer becomes more aware of their own pain. That increases urgency, and urgency drives action. This is where sales becomes almost effortless. Not because you manipulated them, because you deeply understood them. That is the difference. Now, the fourth rule. Reduce friction. This is underrated. Even when people want something, they often hesitate. Why? Risk, uncertainty, fear, doubt. Every sale contains friction. Questions like, what if this doesn't work? What if I lose money? What if this is a mistake? These fears kill deals. This is why elite sellers reduce perceived risk. They build trust, provide proof, show testimonials, demonstrate authority, offer guarantees, anything that lowers friction. Because when friction drops, sales rise. Simple. This is why authority matters so much. People trust experts. People trust leaders. People trust competence. Rockefeller built authority relentlessly. His reputation became a sales tool. When people heard Standard Oil, they thought stability, dominance, reliability, authority. And authority sells. Because authority reduces uncertainty. This is why personal branding matters. This is why reputation matters. This is why trust matters. People buy faster when trust is high, and slower when trust is low. Always remember this. Selling becomes difficult when trust is absent. Selling becomes easy when trust is strong. Which brings us to the final and most dangerous truth. The best salespeople do not chase buyers. They attract them. That changes everything. Because attraction creates power. When people want what you offer, the dynamic shifts. You stop convincing. You start qualifying. This is where selling becomes elegant, powerful, controlled.
And this is exactly where high-level sales begins. Because selling something for $100 and selling something for $100,000 are completely different games. Different psychology, different standards, different strategy. And that is where Rockefeller's most dangerous secret appears. Part 3. How to sell for $100,000. This is where everything changes. Because selling something for $50 and selling something for $100,000 are not remotely the same. Most people think the difference is the product. It is not. The real difference is psychology. At low prices, people buy quickly, emotionally, impulsively. At high prices, everything slows down. Every detail matters. Trust matters more. Authority matters more. Perception matters more. This is where amateurs collapse.
Because when price rises, weak selling gets exposed instantly. At $50, people forgive weak positioning. At $100,000, they do not. That is why high-ticket selling is a different game. And Rockefeller understood this better than almost anyone. He understood something dangerous. The wealthy do not buy like average people. They think differently. They evaluate differently. They value different things. This is the first rule of high-ticket selling. Never sell to wealthy people like they are average buyers. Because wealthy buyers are not looking for cheap. They are looking for certainty. The average buyer asks, "How cheap is this?" The wealthy buyer asks, "How valuable is this?" Massive difference. Poor buyers focus on price. Wealthy buyers focus on cost of mistakes. This is critical. Because the higher the level, the more expensive mistakes become. A bad decision at low levels may cost hundreds. A bad decision at high levels may cost millions. That changes psychology completely. This is why wealthy buyers pay enormous premiums for certainty, for speed, for trust, for access, for elite execution. They are not buying products. They are buying confidence. They are buying risk reduction. They are buying peace of mind. This is why premium brands dominate. Think about luxury watches, luxury hotels, private banking, elite consulting. The prices are extreme. But wealthy people still buy. Why? Because they are not buying the object. They are buying what the object represents. Status, security, prestige, confidence, identity. This brings us to the first secret of selling high ticket. Sell certainty. Not information, not features. Certainty. Because uncertainty is expensive. The richer the buyer, the more valuable certainty becomes. This is why elite service providers charge enormous prices. They reduce risk. They simplify decisions. They solve expensive problems fast. This is powerful. Now comes the second secret. Position yourself as premium. This is where most people sabotage themselves. They try too hard to sell, too eager, too available, too needy. That destroys premium positioning because premium products are never desperate. Think about the world's most expensive brands. Rolex, Ferrari, Hermes. They do not beg customers. They do not chase. They do not scream for attention. They position themselves differently. Exclusive, powerful, selective. That creates desire. This is crucial. Exclusivity increases perceived value. Scarcity increases demand. The harder something feels to access, the more valuable it appears. This is human psychology. People desire what feels rare, what feels difficult to obtain, what feels exclusive. Rockefeller understood this. He understood that dominance creates perception. Perception creates authority. Authority creates trust. Trust creates sales. That is the chain. Which leads to the third secret. Sell status. This is dangerous because most people do not realize how powerful status is. People love pretending status does not matter. It does, immensely. Status drives more buying behavior than logic ever will. Why do people buy expensive cars? Why do they buy luxury homes? Why do they wear expensive watches? Often, it is not about utility. It is about status, position, identity. recognition. This is one of the strongest human desires, the desire to rise, to win, to signal success. And elite sellers understand this. They understand people buy products, but often chase identity. They want to become someone more powerful, more respected, more admired. The best sellers sell that transformation. They sell identity. This is why luxury marketing works so well. It rarely sells features. It sells aspiration. And aspiration is powerful. Now comes the fourth secret: qualified buyers. This separates amateurs from professionals. Amateurs chase every lead. Professionals qualify. This creates power. When you qualify buyers, you stop operating from desperation. You ask, is this person a good fit? Can they afford this? Do they truly need this? Are they serious? This changes energy completely. You stop seeking approval. You start controlling the interaction. And control creates authority. Authority creates trust. Trust creates sales. This is why high-level closers often feel calm, relaxed, controlled. They know something most people do not. Neediness destroys power. The less desperate you are, the stronger your position becomes. This is true in sales, business, negotiation, life. And finally, Rockefeller's most dangerous secret. The greatest sales strategy in the world is to become so valuable, people feel stupid saying no. Read that again. This is the ultimate level. The ultimate power. When your value becomes undeniable, selling changes completely. Now people come to you. They trust you faster. They decide faster. They pay faster. Because your value is obvious. This is where the highest earners operate. They no longer rely on persuasion alone. They build reputation, authority, status, proof, trust. That creates gravity, and gravity attracts wealth. This is the final truth about selling. Selling feels like a scam when value is weak, when trust is low, when desperation is high. But real selling is not manipulation. It is value transfer, belief transfer, confidence transfer. The greatest salespeople in history understood this. Rockefeller understood this. He knew that selling was never just about products. It was about power. The power to shape perception. The power to influence decisions. The power to control value. And once you understand that, everything changes. Because sales is everywhere. In business, in leadership, in relationships, in influence. Every day, people are selling. Selling ideas, selling beliefs, selling visions. The question is not whether you are selling. You already are. The real question is, are you doing it well? Because once you master sales, you master one of the most profitable skills on earth. A skill that builds businesses, creates wealth, builds empires, and changes lives. Because in the end, money flows toward value, and value flows toward those who know how to communicate it. Master that, and wealth becomes inevitable. Welcome to the Titans Method.